Oh wow, thanks. Nothing for.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everybody. This is the first episode of the series of the conversations with the seasoned field experts, some noted Pakistani academicians, educational consultants, and yes, of course, great teachers on a range of educational issues that the country faces in producing futurists, um, tech creators, and above all, a satisfied, contented human being. Um, The idea behind the recordings is to develop the bigger picture of the relevant education for both now and in the future, and to present the mandatory and the correct information to the concerned audience, the students, parents, and the educators in particular. Our esteemed guest for the first episode is Mahum Khan, who is software development engineer and game programmer at Unity Technologies, which is an American video game software development company based in San Francisco, California. And right now, she is working on its offshore office, one of its offshore offices, Stafford upon Avon. Um, Mahum is one of the global representatives of Pakistani women in computing. She did a lot of commentary on the women in the gaming industry and encourages women into tech. Basically, she did her BS degree in computer science from IMCG F62 and moved to Lahore, where she joined Arthur Tech and worked there as team lead for a Swiss virtual reality setup. And you should know that Arthur Tech is developing world's leading VR setup app called Arthur VR. Am I right, Maham? Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu and good evening. Right.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you for having me.
It's lovely
Assalamualaikum
having you
to
after
everyone
such
else.
a long time.
Yes,
And
it's very
I
nice to
hope,
meet you again.
yeah, I hope you're safe and healthy in your world. And thank you for joining us and sparing time for this conversation. And I'm super excited, seriously, because you were excited for the interview, yeah?
Yes, absolutely. After reading the questions, I was really excited because they were very different from what I usually get asked, and I love having these thoughtful conversations. Yeah, I look forward to this. Really.
Okay, so I can put my first question right away if you say,
Okay, go for it.
okay. Um, okay, let me put some, words before that. Maham, I saw you in college. We were together in our BSES program at IMCG, right? So
Yep.
I remember those days. Your sole aim was neither the straight A's, the excellent grades, nor did you cram in the exams, but you knew it somewhere, I can feel it. I remember, but you knew it somewhere that this will lead you to the career you want. And you were there, mashallah, right? You know, but unfortunately, most of the students here in Pakistan in their adolescence, when they are adolescents and even adults experience identity crisis. How did you discover your interest, your personality element? What was your age? I mean, do you even remember?
Um, yes. So I grew up struggling with education a lot. Actually, I was never an academic, and I studied my entire life in government colleges. So there was a lot of if you've ever like you have also studied in government college, there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of merit, a lot of
Yeah.
really high scoring students are right there beside you. So I was never. I'm really surprised that you even recognized or saw that I never aimed for the straight A's. But I, growing up,
Wasn't it
I
the
had a
case? I'm sorry. Wasn't
yeah,
it
yeah,
the
that
case?
was the case. That was exactly the case. That's what I'm trying to explain is that I grew up struggling a lot with this. That I never got 60 above 80% or 90%, and there's this culture in our society that our parents boast about our kids having 90% grades or A grades, and they do that in family meetings or dinner parties and anything. And I struggled my entire life because my parents were never really proud of me because I never got those numbers. And I remember in eighth grade, my teacher actually once said to me that you will never even pass metric. I was like, okay. So at that time, when I got into metric, that was a time when I had to decide that whether I'm going to make my teacher's words come true, or am I going to get my act together and actually figure out how to do this. So thankfully, I don't exactly remember how I ended up with this thought, but after really thinking about it, going through the normal process of studying and everything, I realized that exams are just a formula. It's just a formula that you have to crack, and it's a problem that you need to solve. And I ever since that, I have always looked at academics as a problem that I needed to solve, because I knew in my heart that I wasn't really good at it. I can't really score 90%, but I thought, hey, if I want to get into an engineering school, and if I want to get something done with my life, my brothers were really there for me. They from the even from the get-go, they never really treated
Yeah.
me as the little princess. They were always like, you have to grow up and you have to fend for yourself. You need to have a career. You need to be financially independent, financially knowledgeable. So that made me really interested in making it work, no matter how it was. So I just at that time I decided that, okay, no matter what happens, there's a number I'm going to reach, and I'm not going to put more effort after that. If I reach that number, I'm not going to put more effort than that. So I always, after that, I always studied just enough to cross the 70% mark, and nothing more than that. I rarely ever put more effort unless I really like the subjects, like analysis of algorithm in graduation. We had to study from scratch. You know how hard it was to
Yeah.
just study from scratch. And that's when I put in like 100% of my effort, because putting that 100% effort got me to the 70% mark because it was just so difficult for us specifically, because we were in such a bind at that time. So for a few exceptions, other than the few exceptions, I've always just focused on getting the 70% marks, because I wanted to, always had a lot of other interests in my life, and I always wanted to study more. From an early age, I was really into reading books and trying new things,
Yeah.
craft, whatever there was to try, I would go for it. I was really into sports a lot. So I didn't have a lot of time. So I wasn't a very bookish person. I wanted to spend my time doing other things also. So
Yeah.
I figured it out eventually, that how can I do it? How can I get into an engineering school? How can I get a degree and then enjoy my life also?
Basically, you did it. Yeah. You cracked the formula for life.
I, not exactly life, but academics, yes. I figured out how to clear the academics with a decent enough mark, that it's not too bad and it's not too good. So it's decent enough. And after I cleared my academics and I moved into professional life, I realized that that was the right thing to do, actually. I was working with people who boasted about really high marks and really high GPAs, but I was just sitting there. I was there in their league, right beside them, doing what they did. I was getting paid the same. I was in the same level. I was not hindered by anything. So
Yeah.
I have never really regretted that decision. I genuinely still. I'm really happy that I figured that out. And another thing I figured out in my academics was that just reading books to get 90% marks is not really a good thing. I don't know how I ended up with that idea, but in my teenage, about at 16, 17, I decided that if I want to read a book, I want to gain information from it, and I want to learn something from it, and I want to keep that information with me, and I want to build on that information. And even if it doesn't matter, even if it's inconsequential to my exams, if it's an interesting information, I want to understand it. That helped me, that idea helped me shape my life a lot, actually, more than anything else in the world. That one idea has helped me a lot, because after that, I have always looked at everything as a problem that I needed to solve, and something, an opportunity to learn anything, whatever it is,
Yeah.
just gain something.
Exactly. You were a great problem solver. You know.
I can say that, not to boast or anything, but I do
Yeah. Yeah.
think of myself as a problem solver. That is definitely my biggest strong suit right now.
Yes. This is the reason you are there where you want to be. where you always wanted to be. And you can, the way you said it, that you can spot those people, you know, who were, yes, who were having, you know, better percentages in the academics.
Yeah, yes, because the when I went to when I went into professional life, I stood shoulder to shoulder with graduates from LUMS and
Mm,
past and the best universities in Pakistan. Even people who came from abroad, did masters from abroad, graduation from abroad, and they were just sitting there, and we were in the same team, and we were working on the same problems, and we were on the same level,
yeah.
and that made me, initially I the thing you said about identity crisis, I have struggled with that a lot. I still struggle with it, but in my early days, in my teenage, that was a really, really big issue because, like everyone else, I wanted to go to a fancy university. I wanted to do a fancy degree. I wanted to have all of these things, but unfortunately, due to personal reasons, I wasn't able to do that, and that was really difficult to come to terms with that part, especially when you're a teenager. You're full of emotions and sentiments. It's very difficult to battle with these kind of things, with these kind of disappointments so early in your life. So that was really, really an issue. And then when I went into professional life, I was really looked down upon because of that one hindrance. Companies wouldn't really
Mm,
approach me, wouldn't call me back. They would recruiters wouldn't like my
yeah.
portfolio or anything. Um, so yeah, but eventually when I got into my job, or when I got a job, I'm really grateful that there were some recruiters who were open-minded to just hear me out and see my
Mm,
potential rather than just
yes.
see my degree and that fancy name and go for it. I was really, really happy to see, and really it was a boost of confidence to see that there are people from LUMS, and people couldn't even actually recognize. They never thought, they always thought that I was somewhere from some fancy university or LUMS or NUST or something
That
like that. I
that
had
that,
to tell
that
them that,
that's
okay, that's
wonderful.
not the case.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful. Maham, you know, I want to ask you, what inspired you to choose computer science as a subject during school years? By the way, at what grade level did you choose computer science?
um, I chose computer science at level grade 11 intermediate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was coming from a full science background, like biochemistry, physics. But
Yeah.
when I went into intermediate, I wanted to stay in engineering, but I hated physics and chemistry. I just hated it so much. And
But we were having the physics in bonus, right?
yeah, that I hated that part also. I loathed the part that I'm doing computer science and I have to study physics again,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially the wave and oscillation subject. I hated that part. It was so painful to go through that. But it was not as painful as going to the ninth and 10th grade physics. Yeah, I guess at that time my brain wasn't developed enough to actually see the problem solving part, and I
Yeah.
hadn't gotten to that part where I had become good at problem solving. So it was very difficult for me to. I was still good at chemistry, but physics was my biggest issue, my Achilles heel. So that's why I chose statistics and chemistry at that time, because I was still good at numbers, but just not good at physics. And then I chose computer science just as a cop out, basically, if I'm honest. But it was attractive because I grew up in a house that was filled with computers. I had three elder brothers, and all of them were really, really fascinated by computers. And three of them went into visual arts and digital arts.
Yeah.
Sorry, two of them went into visual arts. So early on, from very early on, I was introduced to video games and computers and not programming as such, but all these things. And when I chose computer science, I was like, oh, yeah, I can do this. Let's try this. I don't want to study physics, so let's study computer science. But then when I started studying computer science, I realized that I'm really good at it. It is one of those subjects that I never really gave any effort into. I was just naturally good at it. So English and computer science are two subjects that I never really read anything for. I just gave them that exam, and I was one of the few people who wrote the their practical copies, right? You have to write code in them for computer science for their lab, for the
Yeah.
computer lab. You have to write a bunch of code, a bunch of algorithms. So I was one of the few people in my class who did that by hand, by herself. Everyone else is copied from somewhere, from the seniors or anything. I could have done that. I had the opportunity. It's not like I didn't have the opportunity. I just really was interested in it. So I went ahead and did that. And then at the end of second year in grade 12, when I was doing my project, that's when I decided that, okay, this is really interesting and I really want to get into it. But even then, I wasn't really 100% sure what I was doing. But as a subject, yeah, computer science, that's when I decided, let's keep at it.
Yeah, and I'm the witness, guys, that what kind of logics she was having, and literally, I was very surprised that how did she get it so simply? I mean, and it was amazing. You can actually
Indeed, too.
anticipate, anticipate like on the guts you are having, and then you used to say that, okay, we have 55 inches big console, and I used to play games. You were blessed to have such kind of environment, which is usually is not provided to the students for the computer science who really want to put their heart into it, but they are
Yeah,
not fortunate enough like you.
I wholeheartedly agree to that. And I would like to add on to this that this is one of the biggest issues with our youth, and that they lack inspiration.
Yeah.
I was blessed to be born in a family that was filled with inspiration, especially because of my three brothers. I had so much to think about, and then my one of my uncles is a networking engineer, and he was an inspiration to me also. They showed me these different worlds that I could never have access to normally. But I see that even with families that don't have any financial constraint or any lack of exposure, they still lack the motivation to show their children the correct inspiration. I see so many children just wasting their time with the movies, especially Bollywood movies. I'm so sorry, but I have a bias against them because they are so uncreative, non-creative, that your children will only learn cheesy love stories and nothing else. In comparison to other media content, even just Pakistani media content, older media content. You go back to 80s and 90s content we were creating. They had these really intricate stories. There was a story about an architect. There was an adaptation to Lady of the Portrait of a Lady. All of these kind of beautiful stories. You see them, you grow up seeing them, and then you get inspired by them, and then you want to be able to build that life for yourself. And that has been a huge issue, and that's what I try to promote in young people a lot. That exposure doesn't mean that you get to watch a lot of Indian movies or get to watch a lot of cartoons or Hollywood movies. Exposure means that you get to see different lives, different worlds, different aspects of this world, and you get to have that inspiration early on so that you can figure out what you do. Imagine that if I lived in a house full of fashion designers, I would have been probably a fashion designer or something along that line.
Because you are consuming the same kind of information from like 24/7, right?
Yeah.
You are not experiencing any different kind of opinion as well. अब हो क्या ये है कि when you have a lot of choices, and as with the social media, when you select or subscribe one kind of channel and you are repeatedly watching that kind of videos again and again, then obviously why would you entertain a different opinion? Results intolerance.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And this is how human brain works. You are what you consume, and your brain eventually mimics what you have witnessed, what you have experienced.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And that is one of my biggest driving points that I really want to get across young generation is what you just said, that your brain is going to mimic what you see. So you need, and we can't really hold our youth responsible for that because they're children. They're not conscious of what they're doing. They don't have enough information or enough resources to figure out what they're doing and then correct it. It would require immense amount of effort for a child to actually go ahead and do that. So we have to hold accountable the parents and teachers who are there as their support system, and it's their responsibility to make sure that the child has enough environment and enough inspirational and motivational environment, and has enough freedom for creativity to actually branch out and figure out what they want to do. So yeah, so imagine if that's one of the issues why you see that there's this whole shift of communication in the younger generation. When we were growing up, we were really polite and we were really humble, and we were actually even people before us, they were really well spoken even at their early age. But now we see our children, they are more casual, they're more in their speech, they're more casual than us. So that's why I am biased against Bollywood, because if you notice, their movies and their communication in that movie is extremely relaxed and extremely casual, bordering to the point of inappropriateness. And if your child sees that, obviously he's going to be like, okay, that's an adult on TV doing that. So if an adult is doing that, child is trained to always accept that if an adult is doing it, it's right, it's okay. And if you accept that, and if you encourage that, child is almost like immediately going to just adapt to it. And eventually you're just stuck with a teenager who hasn't really learned all of these correct kind of communication skills or social skills. That's why, and an opposite of that is, if you just teach your children from the early age, you block them out of these kind of contents and show them a different kind of content, a more polite or more appropriate content. They might just be blocked in their box, and they might not think out of the box, and they might be too sheltered and too restricted, and they might not be ready for the real world. And the reality of the matter is that the world is real right now. The world is harsh right now, and it has always been very, very harsh and very, very unforgiving. So it's a balance between both. To teach your children both things, to expose them to both kind of culture, but in moderation. It's not an easy task, but it's still not, in my opinion, it's still not impossible. It is possible. A lot of people do it. A lot of nations do it. It's just, we have stopped focusing on it. We have started focusing more on just creating degrees and fancy degrees and fancy schools and having a social. We have focused on associating your academics with your social status. So as the moment you do that, it's going to become a social symbol, and you're going to give undue weight over its value, and not even undue, inappropriate weight over its value. So the value of a school or an institution drops in its quality, but its quantity, not even quantity, but its lifestyle. That's where the weight goes. What kind of lifestyle that school is offering, that's where you focus. That's why these private schools, all of these really fancy high-end private schools are so sought after. But I have seen the kids that study in those schools. My brother is a tutor, so he teaches these children, and I'm not that impressed, honestly, by the level of education they are getting. It's just, for me, it feels like it's a status symbol, nothing else. So the focus has been widely shifted from what was right and what was needed to what is right now.
Yeah, and then when you do not experience the moderate or balanced continuous surveillance by the parents or the teachers or the institute in general, then such kind of dudes, when they get something, then they say that we are entitled to do anything in the world, So you see many educated people involved in white crime, and they say they are this kind of degree, this kind of genre of crime is for us.
That's the part that's the moral and ethics part. That again, it's about nurturing a child, and I feel like that we have started focusing more on the status part of the education and not the nurturing part of the education. And जैसे मेरी अम्मी अक्सर कहती हैं, और it's a very common saying कि तालीम और इल्म में फर्क है, और आजकल तालीम मिलती है, इल्म नहीं मिलता. और ilm jo hai, wo basically that's all of these parts. Taaleem is just like a very technical education kind of thing. You get a bunch of data thrown at you and you just have to
Exactly.
absorb it, and that's it. And ilm is actually an understanding of the difference between good and evil, your moral ethics, what you should and shouldn't do, and understanding of how the world works and what the information you're getting, how do you apply in this real world? That's ilm. And that lacks a lot currently. And again, the burden of responsibility doesn't fall on the kid, but mostly on teachers and academics and the parents. And I can say that I feel like it's unfair for me to say it because I'm not a parent right now. I've never raised a child, but I'm sorry to everyone who might get offended, but yeah, that is my observation.
We will discuss this offline, by the way.
Sure. Sure, we can take this off
It's okay.
offline.
It's okay. It's okay. Maham, yes, you can see the IT industry has achieved a lot, and it's still booming. Yet it hasn't made the machine which Alan Matheson Turing, the father of computing, the father of cryptocurrency, the father of AI, had anticipated in his early college days back in it's 1934, which would be the ultimate production of AI. Do you think, Maham, that the schools right now are not producing um, futurists and technologists which go towards creating technology rather than only consuming it?
That's a very interesting question, and these are one of the questions that I really liked. So I would like to break that question down to two parts. First part is the Alan Turing part, and the second part is the question that what is the focus of our schools right now? Some might say that I'm not an expert on academics, but
No, that's basically very, very relevant. Let me just clear and mention it here.
A little. You might remember I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, the first question I'd like to take the first part first. The Alan Turing part.
Sorry,
so
your
Turing,
voice has been interrupted. So I need to mention here that you were teaching even to your lower graders. Yes, when you were back in your 7th semester, and you were teaching to the 2nd or 1st semester, right? In our college days, and you were doing it very well. So yes, you have teaching experience. The reason I am asking you, the very reason.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to answer the first part of the question first, the Alan Turing part. The Alan Turing predicted that we would make a very good, very real AI machine. Right?
Thinkable.
Exactly. Thinkable, right? So that's about neural networks and expert networks and fuzzy systems. So a lot of research has gone into that vision and that dream, and billions of dollars have gone into that dream. But the thing is that we live. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to just explain what we are living, the kind of society we're living in currently.
Mm-hmm.
The last couple of decades were the age of internet. That was it. The internet took everything by storm. But now the decade we're currently living in, the world we're currently living in, is called the age of data. Data is the most expensive commodity in the world right now. It is used everywhere, and it is the single most sought after commodity. Everything you do on the internet, you can link it to someone grabbing your data. Someone somewhere is 100% grabbing your data. You are not untraceable. So the thing is that my opinion about the AI machine is that AI machine, the reason why we haven't really made that much progress in creating that kind of systems is because it required a lot of computational power. It required a lot of research, and the need of the hour was not accuracy, right? The need of the hour was accuracy, high efficiency, high accuracy. And the system that were created were not that accurate, and that they were not that efficient. Meanwhile, you have this new thing called machine learning. And it's usually said in the same sentence as AI, artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning. But they're slightly different because machine learning is about feeding your system a giant amount of data and then making your machine learn from that data. It's sort of similar to AI, but it's not that because it's limited in its capacity of functionality. It's limited in its functionality, so it cannot really think as fluidly as an AI machine, but it does its functions, what it's supposed to do, really, really well. It outpasses
like an expert
a human
system.
Yeah, like an expert system. An expert system that is focused on just data, and but different from expert system because it's still not a system. It's just a very imagine it's like a one-to-one kind of functional machine. That's why it's called machine learning. So it's like a machine. It has a purpose, and it's driven by that purpose, and it does nothing other than its purpose. So there are algorithms out there who are working on this idea that you can take the machine learning aspect above and take a step forward and put some AI on it and actually have some predictions running, and they are good, but they're still not that fluid, and they're still not that defined as what Alan Turing suggested we would be able to do. So we are there, but we're not even halfway through what Alan Turing was thinking of doing. And it's basically because what was the need of the hour and what we had in our tools. So at some point in our history, not far from today, we shifted our focus from AI to machine learning and data-driven information. Data-driven, what is this called? DDP, data-driven development. DDD, data-driven development.
DDD, yes.
Yeah. So we focus on that, and right now there's like a huge application of data-driven development, and there's a huge application on ML. It's fruitful, it's efficient, it does the job it's supposed to do, and it benefits a majority of the global population. So there's a lot of focus on that, and I see that's why AI, the research in AI has slowed down because of the shift to ML. And now people are working on ML, and they're definitely going to try to take that route, to go to the AI system, the more fluid AI system, through the ML path rather than the previous other path. So that's my answer for the Alan Turing one. It's the need of the hour, and that's you see a lot of that happening in your history, in human history. We get suggested something. A very famous example right now would be the Elon Musk example that. Humankind has been researching on landing on Mars for a very long time, but then Elon Musk comes in. He says that, okay, we should research in space, but we should have a more functional research. We should have something out of that research rather than an arbitrary landing on Mars. What are we going to do after we land on Mars? And we don't have these kind of resources to do anything after we land. So we should get some really, we could say, easy wins out of this. So that's why the research went into vertical landing projectiles. What are they called? Perpendicular. I don't exactly remember the term, but their data, their research on that, and then the satellite internet research that they're doing, and then the SpaceX project that about really reducing the airtime. So rather than trying to land on Moon or Mars, why don't we use the same technology to move around the globe, and then using satellites to have internet? So that is really, really good. And a lot of people would say, well, why didn't we land on Mars by now? A lot of people predicted that we would be able to, or at least Moon. Why haven't we gone on to Moon? A lot of people predicted that we would have a lot of space stations up in the air. But that's why, because it wasn't really the need of the hour. We needed other things. We need fast internet that is easily accessible throughout the globe, even in the remote areas in Africa and Asia. And if we stay dependent on wire, we will not be able to provide those kind of people with internet. But with, I think Starlink is what it's called, the satellite internet that Elon Musk is researching on and is about to launch. With that, it would be wireless. It will be, I think, it will use satellites to provide you internet, and it's going to be super fast, and it will be accessible everywhere without any restriction, without any dependencies on wires and then all this kind of old technology. So that's when they took a deviation from the actual projections and tried to do something really productive out of it, or tried to get some reasonable, or you can say, I'm getting the wrong words here, but more fruitful and efficient solutions out of an already beautiful science. So that's my answer to the Alan Turing question. The question about what we're doing, are our schools creating futuristic and evolutionary developers? My answer to that would be not exactly. Maybe because it's the inspiration part. Children lack inspiration even in schools. They're taught. So okay, when you go to an computer science in an engineering school, by that time when you hit 18, and you're 19 and 20, you're at that age where you are really close to the real world, and you need to really, a lot of people start working at that time. A lot of boys start working around that age because they have to fend for themselves. So they're really into that real world. So they have lost their chance of trying new stuff and trying in getting inspired by anything. So they have to face the world. They have to make use of whatever they have currently and get the job done. So a lot of times that's a missed opportunity. Inspiration part comes really early in the age when they have this when you say what's the right word? So उनके पास इस तरह की luxury होती है. They have that luxury to actually get inspired and get try new different things. They have no responsibilities. They're far from the real world. They can do whatever they want. Even if they fail, it's good. It's okay. They won't get hurt. So if you notice, in the early ages, from puberty, that's a very good age. Start from puberty. That's when the brain starts really rapidly developing. The children are just focused on a handful of careers. Like I think that 5 or 6 careers: doctor, engineer, pilot, army, businessman. I guess that's it. I can't think of anything else that they're told. I wasn't told anything else. Teacher. That was another thing. That's it. That's all you're told up until the age of grade 12. That's what you have in mind. That's what you're going to do. After that, you're going to figure out, okay, now the exposure starts. Now the universities try to have an impact. They try to show you things, and they have 4 years to do that. So there is a possibility that there's a child out there who is going to get the right kind of exposure at the very end of its graduation period. That's like 22, 23. That's already a bit late for them. So innovation and the whole futuristic part, that comes really, really early. If you don't inspire your kids to try different things, they're going to be, they will be lost in this world, I would say. So I know that a lot of people who went into robotics, I asked them, what are you going to do? And they were like, I don't know. They had no aspirations. They had... Yeah, and a lot of the people I know that went into these really kind of fancy degrees, electrical engineering and mechanical engineering and all that stuff, they have no idea what to do. First, we don't have jobs that cater for these kind of degrees, and second, they just don't know what to do. They don't have enough exposure to actually go out and try different things. They don't know that there are grants available for them to actually try and apply and try a new business, or maybe try a new project. Maybe what's the benefit of going for a PhD? What are you going to do? What are you going to get out of it? Why do you want to even do research? A lot of people just go into research because they don't want to do a job and they want to have a stable life. So they choose academics as their career, not because they were interested in research, but because they wanted a job. And that's pretty much it. So if you're creating people there, if you're focusing just on the job aspect of a child, that's all he's going to think about. And that's all that's going to come out. They are going to take out of it. So software engineer, that's the only, you have a bunch of paths told to you. You can be a software engineer, you can be a QA, and that's it. That's all you're told during your graduation. Very few people know that there are jobs available for project managers. Even less people know there are jobs available for technical product managers. I barely know anyone who knew that there was a job for technical content writing. And even within gaming, there were script writers. There were so many writing opportunities. There were so many management opportunities. There were different paths even within software engineering. When children leave their computer science degrees, very few people know that they want to develop an Android app, or they want to do something in data, or they want to do something in web. They just go out and try to find a job that they would have. Anyone that they would take, and they just start doing it. So if you just focus on the job aspect, that's how you're going to get. People don't really get inspired enough in the academics.
One of the reasons to set up this conversation and recording series, that there is a dire scarcity of true counseling, and updated counseling, by the way, especially for the tech, where you see such a rapid progress, such a rapid progress, where you do not witness such kind of progress or the research or the updated research in any fields you see around you. So this was the very reason, I chose this program, that the true information should be delivered to the young, fragile, needed minds.
Very true. That's why I agreed to it also, because it's a very good
And thank you
opportunity
so
to have
much.
this conversation.
Maham, are very relevant to the question I have asked earlier. Do you think that your teachers contributed towards the person you are today?
Um, uh, yeah,
They surely did. They surely did. But I wanted to know if you can rate, or if you can prioritize your self-learning experience, your overall the home experience, or or the teacher student teacher interaction, or the peer interaction. I just want a holistic answer to this question.
Well, what I can say is that as a student, I was a very unique student. I wasn't a normal standard student, and schooling was difficult for me, even though it didn't seem like that. A lot of people thought that I had a lot of fun, but it was difficult for me because of my opinions. I'm a very highly opinionated person, and my opinions keep growing. So what I learned, impact of my teachers before graduation and after graduation, and there's a start line of graduation before I started and after I started. So before I started, a lot of my teachers were really inspiring, and they really helped me, even though some teachers told me that I won't even pass metric, and a lot of my teachers just looked down upon me. There were some teachers who inspired me to actually keep trying. There were few teachers in my life that were the reason I kept going, and I tried to figure out a way to crack this code of exams and academics and figure it out rather than get synced. But still, after I started graduation, it was very different. Graduation was a difficult time for me personally. I was going through a lot of things in my personal life, and emotionally, I feel like I'm a late bloomer. So my teenage, for me, it felt like it started during my graduation, because I was an extremely rebellious person at that time. I just wanted to do my thing, and I would fight everyone who wouldn't allow me to do it. So so graduation taught me what real life would look like. I didn't have a really huge problem moving into a professional career, working under people and working under harsh environments. Because of that kind of harsh and grueling environment that I had gone through in my 4 years of graduation, and it really honed my problem-solving skills, because it felt like I was thrown in a burning frying pan at that time, and I had to get myself out of it. So I had to become really creative, really, really creative. And so for me, those are my most productive years up till now. I have not been this productive. I feel like professional life is just chill. The graduation was really, really tough for me.
Let me put a disclaimer here. This interview will going to be uploaded on YouTube. It will be accessible.
I know that. I know that, and that's why I know that. I know that my answer is.
But let me just complete it. Well-behaved people and the normal people, they seldom make history.
I I try to be well behaved, but thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. But I do agree. I agree that I was a difficult person during graduation. I was not a normal person, and I gave a lot of tough time to my teachers who were just dying, I guess, trying to do their best. But I was running after I had different dreams and I was running after them in breakneck speed, and I felt like I was failing, and I didn't accept at that time that I didn't accept that failure really well at that time. Like I said, the disappointment of not going to a good university and not going to a flashy thing, it was difficult for me. All of these things were difficult for me, and that's why I say that my teenage was really late, because the hormones part did come into impact that a lot. So yeah, that's why I say they teachers taught me resilience a lot. They made me really tough, for sure.
The real kind of skill you needed, basically, for the 20. These are kind of one of the 21st century skills.
Yeah,
unconsciously, they floated that to you.
Yeah, that was not that was not what they're trying to do, but that is the skill that they gave me, and I feel like that was the most important skill I needed to learn, because in our society girls are treated as princesses, and up until 22 and 25, and that's when they're thrown into a frying pan.
True.
Burning, not even frying pan of lava, and it's the life is so difficult and so unfair and so harsh. It is so difficult to maneuver through all of that. It's not just emotionally physical. Sometimes it's physically difficult. So yeah, I feel like that girls shouldn't be treated as princesses. They should be given a hard time. They should be taught at an early age that the world is difficult and it's harsh, and you need to adapt to it. You need to learn to survive in this environment, because that's the only way you're going to survive adulthood. Because adulthood, no matter who you are and no matter where you are, what kind of resources you have, it is going to be difficult, much more difficult than just puberty and teenage. I know that a lot of children think that during their teenage life, that the world is they frequently feel like that the world is falling apart. That's what I felt like also. The world is falling apart. I'm never going to be successful. This was my only chance. I'm never going to get another chance in my entire life. That's actually not true. You keep getting chances. You keep getting chances all your life, actually. You just need to be able to see them, and you just need to be able to grasp them and make the best out of the current situation that you have. And that's why I don't really discredit my academics too much, because again, I am who I am because of my early age. All the things I learned in my early age and all of the schooling that I had, and I'm very proud of all of the things that I went through, because that taught me a lot as a person. A lot.
Yeah, a human is shaped by his routines. The famous British poet Alfred Tennyson says, "I am part of all I have met."
Yeah, very true. Wise man, very, very true. And that's another thing that I would really like to take an opportunity to emphasize on, that especially for girls, but for boys also, we are taught that we should forget everything that we have learned in the last during academics, and just change everything. And whenever we come to whenever we face a hardship, we're taught to just forget it and move on. You should never forget your hardship. You should always build upon it. You should always remember it in your heart. Remember what happened, how it happened, what went wrong, what you did wrong, and then build upon it. Don't. So growing up in my school, there was this plaque. There were huge plaques with really nice quotes on them. And one of the plaques said that a fool learns from his own mistakes. A wise man learns from others. And
Hmm.
that is one of the very basic things that I've lived through all my life. I don't have to go through every single bad experience to realize that, okay, this is not going to work out. I can just look at other people and talk to other people and learn from their mistakes. I don't have to go through that pain myself. And yeah, as kids, I think that is very important. You need to keep your eyes open.
Yeah, you see, the education dynamics have been changed. It's not a surprise anymore how technology has become the driving force for change in, almost every major industry, importantly in the education sector. Um, Keeping up during the pandemic and the changes it brought, technology has played a major role. The pandemic situation, and this is, this luckily the pandemic situation made this transition swift, which was not possible otherwise in the developing countries like Pakistan. You know, now keeping in view the changing lifestyle, how do you see a 21st century classroom? What should it look like? And what are the
Um,
necessary ingredients it should be having?
like you said, technology has changed it a lot. It has impacted it a lot. During the pandemic, technology is the only thing that actually kept the world running. Otherwise, a lot of the cogs would have stopped. A lot of the industries just stopped working, and technology was the only thing that enabled very handful of people to keep running this world. So I think the 21st century where classroom is going to be a high-tech classroom, but there's going to be a different thing. So obviously there's going to be devices and internet accessibility, and it will become near essential for children to have access to internet. You might have noticed growing up we didn't have a lot of access to internet, but after this kind of pandemic is over, I think people will finally change their mind, even in the third world countries where it is not a norm. They're going to change their mind and they're going to make internet accessible for their children. um, but one thing I feel like, it's my personal opinion, but I feel like is going to be an impact is children are going to get, um, I don't know if they have already seen it or have come face to face with it, but they are going to see this whole mentorship idea. And they're going to come face to face with that, and they're going to really take it upon themselves. Like they're going to accept it. I feel like if you remember growing up, our school life was just school life. It was just going to school and then coming back and just very isolated to the environment school is providing us. So only interaction we had with was with our batchmates, our teachers, or our seniors or juniors. But now I think children will be able to branch out a lot. They're going to network from an early age, and they're going to meet mentors, industry experts really early on in their life. They're going to find people who they resonate with, and they're going to have a connection. So example would be like having a pen pal. It'll become much easier to have a pen pal now, and children are going to use that pen pal as a source of information. And I think another example would be the old apprentice and mentorship idea that used to work in before 17th century, before the industrial revolution. There was this idea that every expert is going to have an apprentice and they're going to teach them, and that's how they pass their information down, not necessarily in schools, because schools weren't that accessible to everyone back then. I feel like that idea is going to come back and people are going to take up apprentices more. It's going to become really, really creative. I think children are going to get exposed to new technologies and new environments, new industries much easier. And you will see a lot of interesting innovation now. Not exactly, I don't expect a 12-year-old to create a really nice company, but I do expect that 12-year-old to later go on 5 or 7, 10 years later and have an unexpected path.
I hope it manifests in front of you.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, digital is the new norm. And as soon as you realize that, you have to cope with it, because this change is irreversible. It will not going to be
Very
back.
true.
Yeah. You have to be smart enough to to select the smart choice, and to, yes, to cater with what is happening.
Very true. Very true.
Yes, we live in a digital era using mobile devices to create cloud computing. We are using Zoom to collaborate with each other, cognitive computing, AI to improve operations, and data analysis to extract key insights. And that's just scratching the surface. Maham, what are the mandatory skills which should accompany a student of today who wants to be relevant in the market till 2030, let's say 2050 would be so far, so 2030? Yeah.
Yeah, the landscape is changing really fast, so 2050 will be really, really far. We
Yeah.
can't predict that far. But for the next decade, a child, teenager, I think one of the, for sure, problem-solving skills. It doesn't matter which industry you're working in, doesn't matter what field you choose. You need to be really good at problem-solving. And
Complex problem-solving and decision.
Complex problem.
Yeah.
Decision-making. Yes. The issue is that our world is getting harsher by the day because of these. Well, the global village is just that. It's a global village. So it's a village of a lot of people. So it has very different and unique kind of issues. So children need to be confident, really, to navigate in this world. Confidence is a soft skill. Communication is a soft skill, but it is a necessary skill. I feel like students need to really, really focus on their communication skills, because that is a make or break kind of situation. Even if you are okay-ish in your skill set, if you have good communications, you're going to go really far, actually, because not a lot of people are able to do that. And it's still a very sought after commodity, maybe after 10, 20 years when everyone is really nicely spoken, and not just nicely spoken. When I say communication skills, oh yes. When I say communication skills, it doesn't mean that you speak nicely and you speak very humbly and all that stuff.
Okay.
No, what I mean is that you're able to understand every single thing that is spoken to you. So imagine this.
So you're saying you should be a good listener.
You should be an active listener, and you should be able to apply problem-solving skills on your listening. Because let me give you an example of this. You're a developer right now, so your only job is to develop an app, and you have only technical skills. Okay, so your business side is going to come to you with a client request, and they're just going to give you this. We have a client, and he's saying this, and the client is imagine you're creating an Android app, and it's a visual Android app. It has some GUI aspects, and there's a client who's going to say, okay, when I press this button, the whole thing goes black. You're like, what? Seriously? Really? No, not even black. It goes red. Sorry. I was mistaken. And like, And the request is going to come to you through business, through your business department. Business department might not even say button. They're going to say there's an incident when the app goes black. And we're like, seriously? You need to give me more information about this. Now, if you're, depending on your different kind of department, if you're in QA or if you're in product management, you're in programming, you're gonna see that issue differently. And now, especially as a QA, because I have that experience, I am in QA. So though they're going to tell you, the engineer is going to see that it's the screen is black, that means the app crashed. You need to figure out where it's crashing, and now let's go ahead. And when the fix comes to you, it's going to be about a crash. When actually it's not about a crash, it's about something else. You don't know what's going on. The whole thing is completely destroyed. And sometimes your programmers are going to ask you, or ask someone who is good at communications, is going to ask you to just go to that client and ask him what he's talking about. And you need to be able to understand what he's talking about in a technical manner. So if he's saying, I press this button, the screen goes red, you need to be able to understand, okay, when he presses this button, this is the workflow that kicks in is this, and it's going to go through these kind of functions, and these kind of functions are going to impact these kind of hardware components. Why is this red? Is this color? Is this device broken? Is the screen broken? What is the pixelation issue? Okay, I have an understanding of the problem is, okay, I'm going to go back and tell my programmers this is happening. And when you talk to the programmers, you can't tell them that the button turns the whole screen red. You're going to have to tell them, okay, this workflow, when it gets triggered, this happens, and at this particular point, this is going to break. And the programmer is going to talk a different language now. He's going to
Yeah.
start talking about variables and parameters and all other kind of workflows. And you need to be able to understand that language also. So that's what I talk about. That's what I mean when I say communication. You need to be able to understand what different kind of people are talking about. Because when you're going to start to go into your professional life, you're going to meet all kind of people. You're going to meet technical people, you're going to meet business savvy people, sales people, content writing people, visual artists, normal artists, marketing people, and everyone has a different language. Everyone speaks differently, and they will be speaking about the same thing. So you need to be able to understand them. If you can crack that code, and if you can become good at it, you are already about like 50% above your normal candidate.
Maham, you are doing great things in games. If I ask you about your ambitions in gaming industry, how do you plan? Are you planning or to contribute to the gaming industry in the coming days?
In the
How will
gaming
it
industry,
manifest? What is your biggest dream in gaming industry, and how will it gonna be manifest?
my answer is a bit cheesy. I want to be the best
Game
at what I
programmer
do.
in the world.
Yeah, not exactly a game programmer. I'm a quality assurance engineer. So I not even now I am an SDET. So I'm a software developer engineer in test. So it means I am a bridge between programming and quality. So I
Okay.
want to emphasize on the quality culture, and I want to eventually have a huge impact on how the quality is how software's quality is seen and managed in our country for sure. Even though I'm in UK right now, but I want to have that impact in our country, and I
Mm,
want to have, because I know how I know how it works in Pakistan, and the focus is not on quality that much.
mm,
I want to really introduce these kind of workflows and these development pipelines that would
mm.
help create better products, because quality is the core parameter for creating a stable, more efficient product. And I always want to focus on creating healthy products, performance savvy products. So that's my eventual ambition.
Yeah, and you have a very practical and consistent approach. And yes, I am the witness to that you often do such commentary that, and uh, the kind of thing you were saying, that you have that feelings that you should float this kind of information or the standard state of the art things to the Pakistan. That's beautiful, and you are sparing time for such kind of talks as well, on Facebook streams as well. I
Thank you.
this
Thank you.
is yeah, I highly appreciate this. um you know
I'm always available for these kind of chats.
yeah, you always spare time, you always spare time. Games, what clicks your mind at first is fun and adventure. um on average 90,000 games are striking the market annually. uh the result, the indoor generation is increasing in numbers. Kids are consuming games at their vulnerable ages. Maham, do you think that the available gains are safe and healthy for them at the very fragile stage of their life?
Yes. It would be weird if I said no, but I genuinely believe that. Because I don't believe in the idea that games have a negative impact on a child's mind. It's about the content he feeds. It's about, like, if you start watching rated R movies or rated R something, highly violent content in an early age, it's going to have a negative impact on them because they're
Mm,
not used to that kind of thing. These kind of contents are designed to have a major impact on your emotions and your brain. So they are going to have that impact. But I feel like that the games part, they're not as violent as a lot of medias. Very few games are that violent, and they are age restricted, just like all other media is age restricted. So if we just follow the age restrictions, and all of these ratings correctly, children will not have that kind of negative impact on them. So if a game says that it's 18 plus, an 18 plus child should play it, not an 11-year-old or a 10-year-old. Other than that, there are a lot of good content that is created, and the reason why I chose video gaming as a career was mainly because of this. Because video games are sitting at a pinnacle of programming. So they merge programming with visual arts and art history. So it's a beautiful marriage between science and art. So and it's interactive. It really plays on your brain waves, and if you play the right amount of games, right type of games, you can actually start building your brain muscles, and you can start developing certain skills. So you have seen apps like Luminosity and stuff, which give you exercises that would help you increase your brain power. All of these kind of theories are applicable on games, and there are a lot of games who are focused on them, and they can be used to enhance someone's thought process. And then there are a lot of games who focus on different ideologies and different kind of issues, like Senva Hellblade focuses on mental disorders and all of these kind of stress issues. So children can actually, not children, I would say teenagers, because Senva is age restricted. So these kind of content, they can get an idea of what it feels like to have these kind of disorders, and then they can have empathy for these kind of people. If they just see a movie, it doesn't drive the point as actively and as hard as a game does, because you're there pressing the button, so you're taking part in the decision making of that character. So it's not just a very I can say an indirect approach to consuming content. It's a very active and direct approach of consuming content, and you're actively taking part in decision making. So when you do that, you take responsibility of the actions of that character. So you actually are able to have more empathy in this way, rather than just watching a cartoon or a movie. You can watch a cartoon and a movie for 10 hours a day, sitting on a sofa, just sipping drinks and eating something and snacking. But for the game, you have to actually take. Of their actions.
Okay. Okay. Maham, what are the demands of a game right now? As you have seen that, it's an amalgamation. It's a perfect amalgamation of science and art, the logic, the fun. So what are the current demands? What are the contemporary things they see while making any game? Is it just entertainment and fun? Education is the purpose, or there is some agenda behind it, or it could be the propaganda. I mean, the negative or the positive as well. When you see there are two kind of propagandas. If you are going to inculcate the historical or historical things, in your ongoing generations, you can see the Turkish series or the historical things. It's a kind of a positive propaganda. They want to inculcate some kind of the things they were witnessing in their elders. Now, or it could be the negative propaganda as well. You will agree to me that there are some violent there are some violent contents which is badly participating in our children's mind, and it is bringing huge devastation. The PUBG, or there are many games. Parents complain about them, and they do not actually doing anything for them. It's kind of addiction as well. The addiction factor is always there with the movies and with the games. So before asking you the question, I really want you to enlist the healthy games, some of the healthy games, so that I can put them into the the description box of this interview. What do you think?
Oh, you should have told me about that earlier. I would have made a very good list. But right at the top of my head, I would say that
No, you can do it. You can do it later.
Hellblade.
You can do it later, Mom. Yes, you have time and you can do
Yeah,
it.
I'll give you a better. I'll give you a better list offline that you can add in the description.
Yeah,
But right now, on top of my head, I would say Fortnite is a very cute, non-violent game, which is very popular among kids. There is Hellblade Senua, which focuses on these disorders, and it's very good for empathy. And again, it's age restricted, not for everyone, but anyone above 18 plus. I think that's its age. So it's a very good game to play for everyone. There are some problem solving games, a lot of puzzles that are really, really good. I really like the word puzzle, the crossword ones. I often play actually the crossword puzzle one and the Sudoku ones. It's fun. It really helps you kill your time without really wasting your time. You learn something, then you get faster in your vocabulary and good at that. Other than that, yeah, pretty more positive ones. Otherwise, most of the games that I play are really nice and cute. All the racing games give you a sense of, or you can say, they really hone your reflexes. Reflexes very nice because you have to turn. And the fighting games actually hone your reflexes even more so, because you have to really keep up with them. And they're really Tekken, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
They really help Dota, Dota 2 and World of Warcraft that are really based on decision-making skills, how fast you can make decisions, especially Dota focuses on how fast and good you can make a decision. That those are really good. So for me, I don't really list the proper educational games as really good influences. I honestly, all these games are really good influences on children along the way. But yeah, there are some educational, really core educational games also that actually teach you something alongside. So yeah, I'm gonna give you a proper list after this.
I'll be waiting for that. Maham, who can be a game programmer? Can you tell us the steps to get into the journey of becoming a game programmer, especially for the students out there?
A game programmer, anyone can be a game programmer. I don't put a restriction on that. Anyone who believes that they want to have a difficult life and a difficult career can have a can be a game programmer, because it's not an easy field. Game programming is a bit difficult. It's a bit complicated. So it's not as easy as web development, I would say. Please, web developers, don't hate me. But yeah, so if you want to have a more complicated set of problems, and you are interested in the visual aspects of programming, you want to have a more interactive kind of application, and you want to have more visual, you can say, you want to take out more visual accomplishments out of your product, then I would suggest game programming, because in a web app or an Android app, it's not very visual heavy. It's more coding heavy, and even the algorithms, sometimes they're very sophisticated, but generally they're not. With game programming, the algorithms are also quite sophisticated. And if you're interested in UX, user experience, and human behavior, and how that's applied on working, because most of the games developed are focused on our actually apply all of these human interaction HCI theory and user experience theories, they heavily depend on it. All the color palettes, the visual aspects, where each button goes, what goes where, what kind of level it's going to be, how it's going to impact your brain. These kind of things actually are considered while developing a game. So they're special. Our UX people are really really I would say experienced people, and they solve really complex problems. So that those kind of people, if you want to have these kind of problems in your life, you should go with game development. Otherwise, for a skill set, I would say anyone who is good at problem solving, who's good at probability, statistics, they it would be well suited for them. And statistics is something that not a lot of people say, but actually game development, all of the gaming algorithms are heavily dependent on an event occurring. Because if you notice, if you're shooting someone, the all of the action, all of the events that are going to be triggered are dependent on what you're going to shoot and how you're going to shoot it and when you're going to shoot it. So it's basically statistics. It's an event-based system. Everything in a game is an event-based system. So if you have a good affinity with probability, you will be really good at it. But even if you don't, it's okay. Game development is such a big industry that it caters to everyone. If you even we have music producers in our gaming industry. We have content writers, normal script writers, storyline writers, character designers. So anyone can make a game, can take part in a game. You just need to figure out what you're actually going to do. Not 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 just a developer or a QA person or a project manager. These three things are not just the only path you take. That's why I say anyone can come.
Beautiful. That's so encouraging for the children out there. Maham, last but not least, these questions come from the contemporary situation you face and you see on the media, and information reaching out to you through any form of media that West is threatened by Islam, or maybe Islam is threatened by Western conspiracies and the waves of Islamophobia eventually. Yet there are some Islamic scholars who are not scared of West, and they even preach that mantra of collective uplifting, that you shouldn't hate and fight West, uh, rather you should consider them as your protagonist. Now, because you are working out there in the UK, I want to know the truth, isn't it? Is it that huge or the discriminatory Islamophobia out there? Do you experience the discrimination and the bitterness at your workplace as a Pakistani, as a Muslim, as a woman, or it is just a narrative?
I wouldn't say it's narrative. It's just narrative, but I can't really say that I currently face it. I think I faced more discrimination while living in Pakistan than I faced here, because I was a woman. So it was difficult for me to be a female engineer in Pakistan. But I'm in a good company right now that focuses on diversity and really works towards it. So in my personal experience, and that's case mostly, people here focus on your skill set. So if you have the skill set, they wouldn't mind it at your workplace. These kind of things usually happen in normal life, like while you're walking on a street, you're going on a restaurant. It's very rare to see that kind of attitude in a workplace, because there are laws here that are in place to protect your human rights, and these are basic human rights, and people can't do that to you during work. So while working, it's pretty easy, and people can't say stuff like that. There are proper HR departments in place that protect you as an employee, and they cherish you as an employee. I am as a woman, I think I am less cherished here as a woman, but more cherished here as an engineer, and they like my work, and they celebrate my work more than they celebrate my gender, which is really nice. And they celebrate my religion even less. They don't even talk about it. But they accommodate it for sure. If I have to do something related to my religion, they would accommodate it. They were like, yeah, because again, it's part of your law. It's part of the law. They have to accommodate it. These are all kind of things. These kind of things happen randomly while you're walking outside, where the law can't really protect you. If someone screams something at you, what is the law exactly going to do about it? Defamation is very difficult to manage, even best of the societies. Um, if you just see it in Pakistan, someone screaming at you across the road, you can't really, someone staring at you can't do anything about it. It's so violating, but yeah, you can't. So these Islamophobia kind of things that, in my experience and opinion, that's when this happens. Usually, workplace is sort of protected and a safe environment. I can even have like prayer areas and stuff like that. So yeah, but as far as the ally part goes, I also believe in that because there was a time Muslim nation was really progressive and at top of their game and leaders of the world. But that time is not today right now, unfortunately. And we lost that right ourselves. No one took it from us. We lost it. Other people kept learning and we stopped learning. One of the things that Sayyid Ahmad Khan said, one of our founders, our nation's founder, was to focus on education. And if a leader just says focus on your education, that means that that one point was a very, very big problem at that time. No one was focusing on education. So we lost that throne ourselves. So now, if we live in the world where West is dominant, we need to be brave about it. When we need to be strong about it. Okay, people are going to call you names and people are going to look down upon you because they have the upper hand, rather than just saying that, oh, this is bad, and like, okay, say it. Don't accept it, but don't throw a tantrum also. Don't go off the rails about it either. Manage it, figure it out, and work towards finding a solution to it, that solution that works for you, and just keep going forward, because the only chance you have at succeeding is in making it work. Nothing else will help you succeed. No amount of tantrums are going to help you succeed. No amount of protests are going to help you succeed. Making it work is going to help you succeed. Proving your worth and proving your mettle in this world is going to help you succeed. If someone looks down upon you, and it's not just West, it's something that you can apply in your normal life, in your daily life. If someone looks down upon you, rather than spitting on them or slapping them, you can just prove them wrong by your actions. Just prove them wrong. But no, if they think you're not a good coder, prove that they're not a good coder, and don't really give a lot of weight on what other people think. So what they think you're lame. So what everyone thinks that we have issues in our country. We know our reality. We know us, and we know our reality. We know what kind of struggles we go through day in, day out. And they're not going to live with those kind of struggles. We are going to live with these kind of struggles. So we need to figure out a solution for ourselves. They're not going to find a solution for themselves. So why should we really care what they think and what they say? I have always been that kind of a believer that Western issues and the Western views about our culture is going to be productive, and it is ever going to give you any kind of solution. It's just going to waste your own time and own resources. Proving them wrong, China is a very good example of that. People look down upon China for centuries and decades, actually. But look at them here. They didn't throw any protest. They didn't do anything. They just kept working, and they just proved everyone wrong. And now people who look down upon China, they look dumb. China doesn't look dumb. The people who are looking down upon China, they're looking dumb. So we should be like that. Grow a dragon skin, grow dragon skills, be strong, take all the hate, and just keep working.
Yes. Yesterday, I was witnessing a research, and it says that Shanghai is on the top of the K-12 domain. You know, they are doing their best, the state-of-the-art education in K-12 domain. And, you know, our teacher was saying that, you know, वहां पे जहाज आते हैं यूरोप से, जर्मनी से, you know, Harvard से, to see what they did, how they uplifted, what are they doing, what miracles are they doing. So
Absolutely.
Eastern Islands or the Eastern Asia is one of the best examples that they
Yeah,
did it.
Eastern Asia is very good example. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, Singapore,
And
Malaysia.
all of a lot of the major innovation in technology and finance and medicine, nearly every kind of field, majority of the innovation comes from Eastern China now, Eastern Asia now, not just China,
Mom,
Eastern
because
Asia now.
everything depends
And that's a very good.
on the primary or the secondary education you are giving. The best school, the number one school ranked in the world was the Garden, and that was in Malaysia.
Ah, beautiful. That's really good. That's really good to hear. And I agree to that. I agree to that.
Malaysia,
Children are like investing in your nation is like investing in long term.
yeah.
So what you invest right now, you're gonna reap about 10, 20 years later when the children grow up and then they have their jobs and then they go do something with themselves. There's no action that you can take right now that is going to have a significant impact right now. It's a long-term investment, and the long-term investments are the best investments, because the shorter the investment is going to be, the smaller the reward is going to be. The longer the investment is, the bigger the reward is. That's the basic fundamentals of investment. So yeah, education is that kind. If you invest right now, you're going to start reaping your benefits 20 years later. And that's still good enough. And that's what Eastern Asia did. They start focusing on their education and their school system. And that's how they were able to bypass most in 20, 30 years.
Once the right or the relevant education or the wisdom you need, you know, when that gets into your DNA, that's the beautiful part, that then that Matthew formula works, that the rich gets richer in that aspect,
The rich gets rich.
Okay.
Yeah, that is the rich gets richer part is a whole different kind of debate about how finances are managed and global economy is managed. And it's a sad world that we have created for our children and what we have created for ourselves. But again, what can we do about it? We can just live our life. We can just try to live our best life.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult, but it's not impossible.
Yeah. A human being is shaped by his routines, as I said earlier, the people around you, the kind of work or the job you do, the hobbies, relationships, spirituality. My last question would be a very fundamental one and the core of everything, basically. Are you happy, Mahum?
Happiness is a state of mind.
Are you in that state of mind?
I am at peace. After
peace with yourself, peace with the surroundings.
I'm at peace with myself and with with my surroundings, with where I am right now. It's not like I don't have aspirations. Has ended. I have a lot to accomplish even now, but I don't have any regrets now. After a very long time, I can say that happily that I don't have any regrets, and I think because of that, I am at peace and I am easy. I find it easier to be happy now. So I'm not always happy. It's still difficult. Sometimes it's difficult. There are still issues. There are still problems. But regret part is really bad. It really weighs on you.
But basically, you have found the secret. Yeah. I will end the conversation.
For the time being, I am thankful, alhamdulillah. For the time being, yes, I can say alhamdulillah, I have found a solution and I have figured it out a bit. And it's a mixture. What I can say, it's a mixture of patience, restraint, and trust. For me, it was trust in my Allah and trust in my destiny. and trust in my own will, my own human will to make it work somehow. But yeah, the combination of three things uh, that really helped me get to a good time in my life. For now, it works. Life is really long, and like I said, world is really harsh. I don't know what's in it in the future, and how long I can keep it, but I will try my best.
Maham, this is the kind of message you should be, frequently giving to your, to the younger ones, that the life would not be the bed of roses. Do not live in fairy tales. The social
Yes.
media is temporary. Even the actors themselves say that, that
Yeah.
they are different what they have become on the screens. So this reality check is supposed to be consistently put in front of them. You know
Very true. Very true. I agree to that, and I try my best, but I don't usually get opportunities to have access to young people, and that's why I really like this conversation, because that this gives me an opportunity to speak to younger people, and I cannot emphasize enough that the world is not a fairy tale, and it's never going to be a fairy tale, no matter if people say that money solves problems. It does not. Actually, people in middle class I tend to have more peace than people with a lot of money. So financial, you cannot buy happiness, you cannot buy peace, and it's going to be very difficult, and it's going to always be an uphill hike.
Hmm.
You just need to be able to you just need to have those strengths, those muscles to go that distance, and have that strength in your heart to never give up. The giving up part is the biggest one. I feel and I fear that our youth gives up very easily because they're
Hmm.
young. They don't they were never exposed to these kind of pressures, and all of a sudden they come to us come to this they have to come to this realization that the world is not nice, and all of these fairy tales are just that fairy tales are never going to come to a reality. They give up. So don't give up. Keep going, and eventually something will click somewhere somehow. It might not be what you dreamed of, and
Hmm.
might not be the path you wanted to take
Hmm.
eventually, but it will be a nicer path for sure if you just keep going.
Your beautiful lines. And at this note, I want to say goodbye to you, although it's hard. Seriously, when you see your friend after such a long time, the things go on with fluency. It was such a smooth conversation with you, Maham. It's lovely having you. I am eager and willing to know more about virtual reality technologies and the particular thing you are doing right now. And I think so that's a whole new session.
Pretty much, yes. That would be another session.
Yeah, and we would love to have you again. And for you guys, thanks for watching till the very end. And I'm anticipating your feedback. Do share it in the comments. And very important, let us not forget to share it, especially with the teachers, students, and the learners out there. That's all we have for you today, but we won't stop here. The amazing journey has just started. Subscribe to Elements Learning as well. I will put the link below in the description. See you soon, and Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.